Every year, thousands of missionaries serving all over the world return home from honorable missions. They've experienced difficulties, shared testimony, and witnessed miracles. And who will hear those amazing stories? A few hundred people over the course of their life? These are stories that uplift. These are stories that encourage. These are stories that inspire. On Return with Honor, we aim to share these stories with the world. Welcome to Return with Honor. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Return with Honor, the show where we interview recently returned missionaries. I'm Chuck James.
I'm Christine James. Tonight, we're interviewing Josh Palmquist.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
We're really excited to have you here on the show, and let's just kick things off right away with where and when did you serve?
All right. So I served in the California Redlands mission from June 9th of 2015 to just about a month ago, which was April 25th.
So just fresh back.
Yeah.
I know. I've been so excited about being able to talk to you, and it just seems like there's never been this opportunity. I need to just have you over for dinner one night.
Yeah. Just
to visit.
Well, I like food, so.
Okay. I'll get that together.
So what was kind of any of the big differences or things that you weren't really expecting when you got into the mission field?
I think the biggest, or at least one of the biggest things that I wasn't really expecting was that a lot of people didn't have the same upbringing that I did. Not in the church necessarily, but they just had a very, very different time growing up where they didn't always enjoy themselves. And, you know, sometimes they didn't have money for food, or sometimes they didn't have money for this, or, or they just had horrible stories of awful circumstances they were in. And first, it made me really grateful for my parents and how they took care of me. And it just, I knew stuff like that was out in the world, but I never really thought that it was as common as it is.
Yeah. I think that's one of the great things about serving a mission is you really do see how other people live. And, you know, that's one of the things that I explain to people is it's different from going on vacation. When you go on vacation, you go to all the nice places, you know.
Yeah.
But when you're a missionary, you're living with the people and you're doing the things that the people do, and you hear the things that they go through, the hardships that they go through, and you get really kind of a different perspective of life for people in that area. So that's a good one. So in Redlands, I'm sure you came across many different kinds of cultures there. Any new foods, favorite foods that you tasted that you hated?
I think I found a new love for Mexican food. We had a lot of people who had actually just grown up in Mexico and then, immigrated to the United States. And so I got a lot of real Mexican food that was all homemade and great. And I mean, before that, all I knew was Taco Bell or, whatever we made at home, which wasn't really legit. So it was good. I really found a newfound love for that. And I got all these recipes. I saved a bunch of recipes from everyone so I can make it at home, how to make real Spanish rice and things like that. And and then.
Have you tried any of them yet? Have you tried the recipes yet?
I haven't, no. I still have them just written down. I haven't taken it into action yet.
I might have to hit you up because I love nothing more than good homemade Mexican food. It's delicious.
Yeah, really delicious.
What for you? What were some of the challenges, or what was one of the challenges that you faced getting on your mission?
For me, I think one of the biggest challenges was such a strict schedule. I've never really had, other than school, I've never really had just a strict. You have to be here this time and do this, and then also having all of that kind of in our hands as a companionship, of, well, what time do we do dinner and when do we do this? And, who should we schedule at this time? And just learning to plan and live by that plan that you made and lived at that strict schedule. It was, that was hard for me. I've never had that before. So it definitely took me a few weeks to adjust to that.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good one, and one that people really don't think a lot about. But that is very important, and it's probably a good idea for people to, those who are preparing to go on a mission to try to start getting used to that kind of a schedule, the time you get up, the time you go to sleep, scheduling your day, those kind of things probably would be really helpful.
Yeah, I wish I would have taken that more seriously, because I got that same advice, and I was like, oh, no, I'll just do it on the fly. It'll be much easier that way. I don't need to worry about it, but I probably should have done it.
So, can you share any of your spiritual experiences with us? Maybe someone you worked with on your mission, or something that really affected you and your spirituality, your faith?
Yeah, there's a lot of stories you can share. You get a lot of those stories, but the biggest one that really hits home with me was a story kind of showing how the missionaries, God knows exactly who He's putting. Where He's putting them. He knows the missionaries and who they're going to touch in certain places. And so the first real investigator I ever got, his name was Mike, and we got to go. We were at an apartment building. It was later in the evening. Transfers had just happened, a bunch of new missionaries. So we were standing in a circle, kind of getting luggage together and everything, and getting ready to move them into their apartment. And we had some members there with us helping us who lived at the apartment. And someone walked by, and one of the members, she grabbed him and said, "Hey, these are the missionaries. It would be awesome if you met with them and everything." And of course, he didn't want anything to do with us. He said, "Oh, no, thanks. I'm sure they're nice and everything, but I wouldn't worry about it." So I started just talking to him for a little bit, and the conversation didn't really go too far, but I just kind of shared what missionaries do and who we are, and how we're available whenever, and gave him a card, and we got his number. And a couple weeks later, I called him, and he ended up having a lot of the same issues that I had dealt with, a lot of health problems. And so I was able to talk to him and talk about, oh, yeah, well, I did this, and, that seemed to help me a lot. And he said, oh, I tried that, but, didn't get the same results. I mean, we just had so much to talk about after that. The conversation wasn't just slow. It was, me relating my experiences to him and him talking to me about it. And we got to go over, and we actually got to teach him. And he became an investigator. He got committed to be baptized, and he's still doing really well. He's not baptized yet, but he loves the church. He's there every Sunday, and he's still still going very steady in the church, just learning, and he loves it.
That's great. Yeah, and you certainly get to make those kind of connections on your mission, and that's very unique and special, and hard to explain to other people how you feel that great love for somebody that you never even met before.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and I think it's your point too was that God put you there because He knew that you could touch Him, that you could speak His language,
Yeah.
You could speak pain, you understood what he was living, and I think that's a great example of the truth that God knows what He's doing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Love that. Love it.
Yeah, it really opened him up a lot.
Yeah.
So how would you say the church is doing in the Redlands mission? Is it growing, changing?
Yeah, I think it's just in the past few months, right before I left, it was changing a lot for the better. Our mission president, as well as the high council, were in all the different stakes. We're going out, and we're really just helping the wards grow, helping them understand, especially us as missionaries, why we were there and what we were doing. And so as a result, I mean, it was just rapidly growing. So many new investigators popped up, a lot of new baptisms, and even right now, keeping in contact with all the missionaries out in the field, they're still having a lot of great success. It's just a time where all of a sudden all the stakes at the same time got this huge jump in missionary work, and the members are out there. They're loving to help. The missionaries are loving to teach, and they go out contacting, and it's just great. It's a wonderful, strong mission, and it's growing.
That's great.
So you mentioned that the high counselors are going out to make visits. Is that what you mentioned?
Yeah.
So are they taking turns with each ward doing that, or?
Yeah. They're going out into each ward and speaking in sacrament meeting and talking about missionary work, or just being members of the church in general and how we can be an example to those around us. Were usually their topics.
So that probably helped you in your as a missionary. That probably helped you feel supported by the wards and the stakes, and it maybe I don't know, I would imagine that it probably made it a little easier for you guys to do your work, to do your job.
Yeah, and we loved it. We even had a high counselor pull us aside. He was specifically the high counselor over missionary work, and he pulled us aside before the sacrament meeting where he spoke in our ward we were in at the time, and just talked to us about the ward. All right, how's the ward doing in this? How's the ward doing in this? How's the stake doing in this? Are there any things that I should specifically talk about? And he just loved to help us out and kind of get our input of what we thought was going on and tailor his talk to that.
That's awesome. They do that in our ward, in our stake as well. And I was able to do that when I was in the primary presidency. I'm not in there now, but when I went, it was really a special experience. I went with the primary president, and she had things that she needed to say, and the things that she didn't say, I felt like I needed to say, and it was just, it ended up being a really good experience for me, seeing that in action, seeing the high councilman there supporting us, talking as well, and trying to get to know the people that we were trying to help them know. And I think that's a great activity to do. I actually really, truly like that. And I've had a couple of my children who have gone on those visits with the councilman as well, and they've had some really good experiences also. So I think it's a great thing to do.
Yeah,
absolutely. So kind of along those lines, what do you see as the role of the members in the missionary work?
Well, the role of the members is really to help us reach out and find people to teach. Because we as missionaries, we can contact people all day, but we don't get that friend relationship, just by talking to someone on the street. A lot of times it takes a friend reaching out to someone to really help them understand that, we're doing this out of love. We're not just out recruiting people, because we want to take over the world or something, but, we're doing this because we love them. We found something that we want to share with them. And so as members, it was always great when they'd go out and they'd say, hey, I was talking to my friend, and maybe they had some questions or something came up about the church, and I talked to them and, just invited them to dinner or something like that, maybe to familiarize them more with the church, or, invite us over to dinner as well. Maybe we could share a lesson afterwards. And just really helping us find people to teach was the main activity that the members really helped us with.
So as you were working and talking to people, maybe for the first time, did you see that there were common themes that in that area that people were concerned about, or maybe thoughts that they had about the church that you had to overcome?
Well, we got a lot of polygamy jokes, for sure. We got a lot of those, and we got a lot of, not necessarily about the church, but what their beliefs were. We'd ask a lot of people, well, what do you believe? Or where do you go to church, kind of a thing, just to familiarize ourselves with them. And a lot of what we got was an answer of, well, I'm very spiritual, but I don't necessarily go to church. I don't really like to follow organized religion. I think that was the biggest pattern that I really noticed. And when we'd introduce them to our church, that was always their answer was, oh, well, you guys are nice and you do good things, but I don't really follow organized religion. I don't know if that's what I want to do.
So how did you guys deal with that?
We tried to show them the importance of having a prophet to follow, having someone who's, in communication with God. We'd always just show them that and the importance of that and how that could really bless their lives. And that was the main way we tried to show them that, it's not necessarily following the organized religion, but it's about following God and Jesus Christ. And, this is the organization they set up to do it. So we'd go through that and show that to them and kind of go through the organization of the church, help them understand it. And then when they were familiar with it, that kind of took away some of their fears.
That's great. That's a great answer. Thank you.
Yeah, I had the same question, so I'm glad you answered. Yeah, I'm glad you asked.
Any stories that you refrained from writing home about, things you didn't want your mom to find out about because she'd come down and rescue you?
Yeah, there were a few of those. I think the biggest one that I still haven't told my mom about, actually. It's just one she's going to hear about one day, maybe on here. But
Yeah.
I was stationed in San Bernardino, and my companion was up there, Andrew. And it was later in the evening. It was probably around 7:30, 8 o'clock. And so it was starting to become pretty dark. We're driving our truck, and we saw a U-Haul in front of an apartment. Someone was moving in or moving out. We're not sure. We thought, hey, well, our appointment just canceled. Let's pull over, go see if they need some help, and, talk to them. So we did. We pulled over. We walked back probably 50 yards or so from where we had to park, and we talked to them. We walked up. There was a lady sitting on the back of the U-Haul, and then we could hear some people fighting off in the apartment. And so we just kind of walked up and said, hey, do you need help, carrying anything or moving anything? And she kind of just looked up at us and said, this isn't where you want to be right now. You should leave. And so we took that and we just kept walking. I don't know why we didn't walk back to the car, but we started walking the other way. And as we're doing that, it's still pretty dark. And all of a sudden we just noticed this guy kind of following us wearing a hoodie, all dressed in black, kind of sketchy. So we started to get a bad feeling about it, pretty worried. So he's getting close behind us. So we cross the street, start heading back that way. And he kind of starts to cross the street and then decides not to, keeps going. And then as we're walking back on the other side of the street from where the U-Haul was, there was just a big group of people. Again, some kind of argument or something was happening. And we had to walk by them, and there's like no street lights on or anything, really dark. We're just terrified. But we're like, all right, this is the only way back to the car. We just got to just walk through it, see what happens. So we walk through, we kind of say hi, just to kind of gauge where they're at. And, they kind of look at us and like, hey, and wait till we walk by. And then they continue talking about whatever they're talking about. And then after that, we just started jogging back to the car. We were a little afraid of what was going on. We had no idea. And then a few nights later, after this whole thing went down, we got in our car and drove off. We were fine. But a few nights later, we were at a member's house having dinner a couple blocks away from there. And I guess right where we were at, there ended up being a gunfight. And
Wow.
We don't know if it was related or not, but there was definitely something going down. And I guess a whole bunch of shots were fired. I don't think anyone was injured, but had a huge gunfight. Something happened, and we were just glad we weren't there when it happened.
No kidding.
That's sad.
Wow.
Whew, your heart was probably racing.
Yeah, that was terrifying.
Yeah.
Couldn't believe it.
Well, those are unique experiences that you don't always get when you live in a small town like we do.
Mm-hmm.
So you get to see a little bit different face of the world, I guess.
Yeah.
So how has your mission changed you or changed the way you view the world?
My mission has changed me in every way, honestly. Before my mission, I look back and I can't even believe who I was or why I was like that. I mean, I wasn't an awful person or anything necessarily, but, just a lot of little things that I did that I look back and I just wonder why. Things like how I didn't help out around the house more than I had to. I kind of did my chores and left, kind of a thing. And, there were always little things that my parents needed help with, just being more helpful. And being more sociable in public, I guess. Just kind of when we're out at restaurants, saying hi, talking to the cashier, being able to talk with people and be comfortable around them. That was something that I was never good at. But now being able to talk to people, just make good friends and be able to, talk with them about whatever. Just be good, really, really good friends with them.
That's a great change.
Yeah.
That's a good change.
I noticed that about my own husband when he came home from his mission. He was definitely not as shy. He was more open. He became the chatterbox.
I have no idea what she's talking about.
Yeah. Everybody who knows him knows what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
So if you could give one piece of advice to those who are preparing to serve a mission, what advice would you give them?
My advice is kind of weird in that you can't really prepare for everything. That was something I thought I could do. I didn't do the best job of preparing in general. I wish I would have gone to seminary a lot more. But, I thought that there was a way to be prepared for everything. But there's really not. Your mission, where it is, culturally, where, what you're doing and what's going on in the mission at the time. I mean, there's so many circumstances you just can't control. And so you kind of get the basics down. But other than that, there's no way to be 100% prepared. You got to go in there just humble and ready to learn, because there's going to be a lot to learn.
That's great. I think that's great advice. Being humble and ready to learn probably is one of the big keys.
So this wasn't a question that we gave you, but this is a concern that I've been hearing from my own son as he writes his emails home, that he wants to so badly to be better than he is right now. And my response to him is to try to encourage him to realize that he's great where he's at, that he's going to naturally progress, that as long as he continues doing and putting forth that same effort that he is right now, that it's going to happen, but not to be so hard on himself, not to be beating himself up because he's not there yet, Mm-hmm. And so do you have any tips or advice in that area for missionaries?
Especially like the new missionaries when they first get into the field, I think is
sure.
what you're getting at.
Yeah. I went through that same thing. I think most missionaries do in some form for sure. But just like you were describing it, I wasn't feeling good enough. I wanted to be so much better, but it was like, it seemed so impossible. The way I got through it, I guess I just realized that, the Lord knew I wasn't perfect before my mission. He's not expecting me to be perfect on my mission. He's holding me to a higher standard for sure, but by no means am I supposed to be perfect. I'm going to make mistakes. I'm going to mess something up somewhere. But I'm doing my best, and that's all the Lord has ever asked of me. And so as long as I'm doing that, he's proud of me. And then just praying all the time, more than just, at meals and, at night and in the morning. But I prayed all the time, all day, if we were driving somewhere, if we were riding bikes somewhere, in any situation, anytime I felt like I needed to pray, I prayed. And it always helped, either just having someone to talk to or I'd get that comfort. And that definitely really helped me to understand, who I was and that I wasn't perfect yet. I'm just, we're all working there.
Yeah, no, it's a great way to look at it, I think.
I guess I didn't realize that was such a struggle,
Mm-hmm.
but it is
for missionaries.
Yeah.
So kind of along those same lines, if you could gather up all the missionaries that are currently serving out in the mission field and give them one bit of advice, if you could tell them one thing to make their missions better or make them better missionaries, what would that be? What would you say to them?
I think it would be something along the lines of try and be everyone's friend. Don't always try and be a salesman necessarily and go up and, you're trying to sell someone religion, kind of like we already mentioned, you're doing it out of love for them. And so, you want to show them that love and you be their friend. If you're someone's friend, if you talk to them and you just have, genuine concern about their life or what they're into, you're not just trying to make small talk so that you can, get to the punch and try and teach the restoration or something. If you really just show concern, people can tell. People can absolutely tell, when you're genuine, no matter how good of an actor you think you are. I thought I was a pretty good actor for a while before I learned that. But, if you're just genuine, people really latch onto that. Genuine people are getting harder and harder to come by, and they really love that.
I think that's fantastic advice, because that's certainly what the Savior did, right?
Yeah.
He just loved people and offered to them what he had. And I guess that's really what missionaries are doing, love the people and then offer the truths that they have. So that's great advice. Thank you. How about the parents, parents who have children who are preparing for a mission? What kind of advice you give them?
I think just being, I guess they already know, but just to keep being supportive. It's, it's good to write them letters and everything and be supportive, but at the same time, not to, always keep their mind on home. I know for a little while, one of my siblings was emailing me and she'd give me details about everything that was going on at home and all this stuff that I'd be caught up on. And it's definitely good to know what's going on at home, but, she put so much detail into it. I kind of felt homesick for a little while. I was thinking, oh man, I could be back there helping them with this, or I could be back there, just helping one of my sisters who was having some health problems. And, but the Lord takes care of your family. And so for parents to really, support them and help them know that, they love them and everything they're doing out there, keep them updated on the big things at home, but to not get into every detail, not to make them homesick or trunky, as they call it in the mission field, and to just let them, work those 2 years, not to have those worries or those cares. When you accept your mission call, you accept to live by the standards and rules that the prophet and the 12 apostles have set. And so one of those rules is to leave behind all your personal affairs. And sometimes it can be really hard to do that when everyone's writing you about them, And so it's good to know what's going on, but sometimes you can know too much.
So we shouldn't write them and tell them what's going on with their favorite TV show.
Exactly.
No, I think that's good, and I think that's one of the things that parents do need to understand is that part of the responsibility of the parents is to help their missionary stay focused on the work. They're for 2 years or 18 months for sister missionaries to be dedicated to the Lord, and so that's good advice. Thank you. Is there anything that we haven't talked about that you wanted to mention?
I don't think so. Just that, what you hear everywhere. It was a great experience. It was not easy by any stretch of the imagination. That was something I didn't understand, but it was the hardest thing I've ever done, but it was also the most worthwhile thing I've ever done. And it was great.
Great. Well, thank you. Thanks for being on the show with us. We've really appreciated the things that you've said. You shared some great stories and, had some good experiences, and we appreciate you taking the time to share those with us.
Definitely, yeah.
So I actually have one more question.
Oh, okay.
And I'm tempted to add this to our question that we share with you, with our missionaries that we're interviewing. But so you've been home, not for a very long time, but how has the adjustment, I understand that adjusting to home life is a challenge for most people, but do you have any advice to give for those missionaries who do return home, how to keep that level of spirituality that they felt while they were on their mission? Do you have any advice or tips on how they can,
while you're adjusting back to
home life?
Yeah. I'd just stay in the scriptures a lot. That's really helped me so far. Staying in the scriptures, and to the extent you can, keep trying to live a really good schedule. Just keep things planned out for your day as much as you can, and getting the right amount of sleep, but not too much and not too little, and just having your morning nightly prayers, and that's really how I've kind of adjusted back. Just kind of going through that, and then the rest of the day, finding stuff that I needed to do, or going on a job hunt, whatever I needed to take care of. And then it just kind of over time started to adjust back and get used to not always having someone stuck to your side and things like that.
Yeah, that's a great question. I think that it really is something that a lot of people struggle with, and getting back from the mission. I didn't realize that it was difficult for me, but until my dad, my brother was coming home from his mission, and my dad said, would it help your brother adjust? Because, when you came back, you were kind of weird. And I was like, oh. So, but you do go through a little bit of an awkward stage when you get back, and you got to figure out how to kind of readjust and get back to mission or to home life from the mission life. Mm-hmm. All right. Well, thank you very much again for being on the show, Josh. We really appreciate it. Appreciate your time and your stories. Yeah. So it's fantastic.
Yep. Thank you. It was awesome.
Definitely.
All right. Well, tune into our next episode when we will have another great interview with a recent return missionary. To check out past episodes of the show, visit our website, returnwithhonorshow.com, or subscribe to our YouTube channel. If you or someone you know would be a great guest for our show, let us know by sending us an email at rwhshow@gmail.com, and we will see you next time on Return with Honor.